Hello and welcome in to this week's edition of the Hard Fowl. I'm your host, Intern Joe Macheca. I'm home on spring break, and with me, as always, is my co-host, Mr. Jack Veltri. Jack, tough one at Colonial Life. You were playing for the SEC titles. South Carolina men's basketball drops. Tough one to Tennessee last night. You were there. Give me your initial thoughts of the game.
It was a tough game last night for South Carolina. And they lost 66-59 to Tennessee, and now your chances of winning the SEC regular season title are all but out the window as the Vols won that title outright last night, and now you just got to move on, right? And there's a lot of different reasons for why they lost that game last night, but I think the biggest one of which is Tennessee's just a really good team. I think coming into this one, we were saying, it's tough to beat a team twice in a season. And, Tennessee is going through it right now with a really tough schedule, but they have a chance to win 4 games in a row against ranked opponents, which is really tough. And let alone it's against SEC teams that are super high quality. So I think Tennessee is on track right now to be a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament, and rightfully so. Got a good team, and some of the guys that were struggling in that first game between these two were playing a little better last night, and that's part of what made the difference. But also, you have to look at it from a South Carolina perspective of you're not scoring at a premium in the first half, and you're struggling to get shots in. You weren't hitting your 3-point shots early, and you were struggling on ball screens and in transition on the defensive end. And Tennessee was able to get to the hoop and control that part of the game with their high-paced speed. And that's ultimately what set South Carolina back. Now, they did play a lot better in the second half. I'll give them that. They did outscore Tennessee in the second half and looked a lot better. Some shots were starting to fall towards the end of the game, and you get it to a 3-point game with a minute to go, and you think, oh, here we go, just one more shot, and you're in this thing to win it. And then, it gets to a 4-point game, and Talon Cooper has a 3-point shot he could take, but he tries to draw the and one foul, and he doesn't get it called. And, unfortunately, I think in those situations, 9 times out of 10, you're not getting that call, especially when you're, objectively speaking, drawing your shoulder in to try and commit a foul. And Tennessee just wasn't having any of it. And he missed, and that kind of just put the air out of the balloon there. And, you know what? It's a tough loss, but hindsight's 2020, and perspective speaking on this, they got a long way to go in this season. You still got one more regular season game to go where you need to win, and then SEC tournament, NCAA tournament. All your goals are, besides winning this SEC regular season title, are still out there for the taking. It's just on them to go out there and execute.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll preview the SEC tournament a little bit here, or in a little bit here. But my initial thoughts from that loss, obviously, Jack, you mentioned Talon Cooper's 3. Michi Johnson also had a turnover there late. Tennessee, credit to Tennessee, because obviously Dalton Connect had himself another game. Really hard to slow down that kid. Really, really, really good for the Vols. But, what Tennessee did in my mind, that really kind of put the Gamecocks through the ringer is they forced South Carolina to really play one-on-one basketball, really kind of force shots. When you would drive, you'd get double teamed, but then, they'd roll back really quickly. They would recover well on defense and really force South Carolina to not pass the ball. And so I think that's one of the bigger things, right? When you're playing one-on-one basketball in South Carolina, we know their identity. We know they like to share the ball, let everyone kind of get hot, but you really didn't have that chance, right? Michi wasn't taking a whole lot of shots. The ball wasn't really spread out as much as you would have it to be, if you're South Carolina. So got to give credit where credit's due, man. Tennessee, that's one thing they changed up in the game plan from the last time they played. And, it worked, right? And I think South Carolina, too, coming from this, they're going to learn a lot. And one of those is, just in those one-on-one situations, you just got to make better decisions, right? And I think the Talon thing, like, the guy undercut him a little bit, right? But then, when he leaned in with his shoulder, the guy pulled away, right? So if he would have just went straight up, I think there would have been a different contest. Kind of to what you were saying too, Jack. But again, they're going to learn from this, right? They know that. Michi, same thing. There were, just handling games down the stretch is something that they're going to get a lot better at. And, I think they certainly proved that they belong against Tennessee, right? You were playing for the regular season title. And so, this wasn't necessarily a fluke, right? You got beat by a really good team. It was close. You brought it back many times. You were that close. You were so close you could taste it, and then a couple calls didn't go your way down the stretch. And that's just basketball, right? But you were in this. You can beat a team like that. So there should still be plenty of confidence taken from this, and taken into the SEC tournament.
Yeah, and you speak of the calls and stuff, and people want to blame this loss on officiating, and I feel like that's always the easy option in a game like this.
Mm-hmm.
You can, to an extent, kind of look at it that way with Tennessee taking 22 free throws and South Carolina only having 10. Yeah, that's at the same time, though. I mean, South Carolina lost by what, 7 points, and
And it should have been less than that too.
oh yeah, and South Carolina went 50% the free throw line, and Tennessee went 86.4%.
Yep.
So Tennessee only missed three free throws. So when you're looking at it from that perspective, it's like, while you didn't get as many opportunities at the line, you also couldn't cash in 100% of the time. And Lamont Paris talked about that last night. It's like if they went 10 for 10 at the free throw line yesterday, we might be talking about a different game. Who knows? It's one of those things. It's kind of like the Georgia game way earlier in the season.
I was about to say, Jack. Yeah, like it reminded me a lot of the Georgia game, just kind of how you were chasing fouls at the end, right? And trying to win the officials' opinion. And that happens sometimes in basketball too, because when you have inconsistent fouls and you're not really sure what the official's looking for, you can get away from yourself on offense. And then when Tennessee's doing, like, forcing you to play them one-on-one and beat them one-on-one, it can get really hard with that aspect. But continue. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. And I think it's all. I mean, is it also just fair to say that you can blame this game on the officiating all you want, but is it just fair to say that they got outplayed? I mean, I think it's a fair.
I think to an extent, right? Like, part of getting outplayed is just, making clutch plays down the stretch. South Carolina was unable to do that. And again, credit to Tennessee's defense. The whole forcing of one-on-ones, you saw that, take full stage. Excuse me, there in the final, last couple minutes. So, I think that's what South Carolina is going to learn from this, right? They're going to take into Mississippi State how to control the game. When you're down late, because they did a good job of chasing the lead, right? They got it into striking distance. The problem was just the finishing blow to get back over the top.
Yeah, and with that game yesterday, despite South Carolina had to come back multiple times and try to make it a game, but like even when the game got close, it's still, I don't know, man. At least from talking to a few people, it felt like that game was it felt like it was not close at all. It felt like whenever South Carolina was down by 3 points, it felt like a 20-point deficit, and it was just, I don't know, it was just weird because South Carolina. I remember at one point we talked about this before the show. South Carolina was down by maybe 6 points, and then Tennessee hits 2 free throws, it gets to 8, and then Dalton Connect hits a corner 3, wild shot, hits it, gets fouled and one, and immediately it's a 12-point game. It's like it felt like that kind of game all night long. South Carolina would get super close, make a run, and then Tennessee just comes right back and throws a counterpunch, and it's like, you're back to where you started. And Lamont talked about that a little bit last night. Is like, South Carolina was really doing a good job making a comeback, and then you have an opportunity, and then Tennessee takes it away from you, and you can't just get that image out of your head. You can't get that out of your head that, once you start and you make that comeback and then it doesn't work out, it's tough to come back from. And I get that. South Carolina came really close to winning that game last night. And like I said, 3-point game going into the final minute. You had a chance. And who knows what happens if Talon just takes a normal 3 on that play instead of trying to draw a foul. I get what he was doing. It was a smart play because you're down by 4. You're trying to tie the game. But at the same time, you had enough time probably to take that shot, hit it. You're only down by 1, force Tennessee into a foul situation or, trap or whatever the case might be. Try to get a turnover, just foul them, send them to the free throw line. You're only down by 3, and then you can take another shot and try to tie it. So it is what it is. You can't do nothing now at this point. Game's over. Move on and try to be better on Saturday.
Yeah, going into Saturday, Jack, obviously on the road at Mississippi State. It's a tough road test. No, I don't think any road game in the SEC is easy by any means. And this Mississippi State is, another caliber quality team in the SEC.
Yeah, no, this is a team that South Carolina ironically started the whole SEC slate against and had to pick up a big, gritty type of win at home all the way back at the beginning of January. And now it's kind of come full circle. You get to play these guys to end the regular season. And yeah, it's gonna be a tough game. I mean, Mississippi State is a tough team. South Carolina only beat them by 6 first time around, and then they lose a tight one last night at Texas A&M, and then they've lost 2 straight games before that. So they're on a 3-game skid right now, and need a win at the end of the regular season here to kind of. I mean, they're 19-11, so to have any sort of chance of making the NCAA tournament, they're going to have to win on Saturday, and I think they know that, just because South Carolina is a really good team, and picking up a quality quad 1 win like this could go a really long way. But at the same time, for South Carolina, it's like they also need this win, despite more likely than not being in the NCAA tournament. I feel like there's a 99% chance they'll be in as like a 5-6 seed, whatever the case might be. South Carolina's also got a ton to play for, right? You're not a number 1 seed in the SEC right now. You are right now, as we speak, I think a 5 seed, because Kentucky won yesterday against Vanderbilt, and Kentucky has, not the head-to-head, but, there are a lot of other scenarios out there where there's a tie for second place, and South Carolina is the 5 seed right now. So all you have to do right now is just focus on Saturday, win that game, and then I also believe Tennessee plays Kentucky later that day on Saturday, and you also very likely need Kentucky to lose to get a 4 seed. And the difference between the 4 and the 5 seed in the SEC isn't like that substantial, but at the same time, it's like if you're a top 4 seed, you get a double bye, and you don't have to play till Friday next week in the SEC tournament.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you're the 5 seed, you have to play on Thursday next week, and then you got to win 4 games in 4 days, and that's really tough. So to have that 1-day difference is a big one. And look, ideally, regardless of seeding and all that, just you got to win on Saturday, right? You don't want to go into postseason play on a 2-game losing streak and have the bad mojo out there. I do think South Carolina is going to be able to turn around and just get right back to it, because it's not like they played poorly yesterday.
No,
in total, like if it wasn't for a slow first half, who knows what happens, right? It's just one of those things where Tennessee got off to a good start and South Carolina didn't, and that feels like part of the difference in the game. So you got to move on, make some quick adjustments, and try not to let this snowball. And they've done a really good job all year of, outside of Auburn, LSU, really done a really smart, good job of just bouncing back and not letting things get out of hand.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, your quest to reclaim your crown, right? I mean, if you think you had this one, right, and you had a share of the SEC crown, now go on a victory tour, right? Go reclaim your crown, your rightful throne. And it starts this Saturday, right? Because I think you do need to be a 4 seed to win the SEC tournament. Now, it's not out of the possibility to win 4 games in 4 days, especially for this team who has been, streaky at times, right? They know they can rattle off a couple games too. So I think it's not out of the possibility for this team as a 5 seed to win the SEC tournament. But again, you didn't win yesterday. But again, you're taking a lot from it. There should be a lot of confidence. You showed that you can hang, right. And then again, go reclaim what's yours in the SEC tournament. There's a lot yesterday that you really couldn't do anything about. That Dalton Connect 3 in the corner that you brought up, Jack. I mean, I don't know what Zach Davis could have done there. I mean, there's really not any. I mean, close out a little bit better, but I mean, and sure, you kind of wish that you didn't follow him, but I mean, the kid is ridiculous. He was heating up. You can't really give him any more airspace, and so at that point, like right, you're telling him to close out, close out, close out. Eventually, he's going to foul him. There's not much you can do in that situation, right? So you take what you learned from this one, right? Closing out games and stuff like that, and this team certainly will. You need to be yourself on the road. Play your own team basketball. share the basketball as well, and then you shouldn't have any problems. And then you get an extra day off in the SEC tournament. So, and they should take care of Mississippi State. They did it earlier this season. And I think going on the road, especially after a loss like that, should be enough of a humbling, if you will, to get things right back on track.
Absolutely. And I'm just looking at some stats from that first game. Here's some interesting things that I think really help South
And
Carolina.
CMB didn't even play.
That's my first point, is that CMB, Colin Murray Boyles, only played 17 minutes in that game and had 8 points with 2 rebounds. And we've seen, obviously, how much of a monster he's kind of become in the paint. And he wasn't even starting that day. You have to remember, this is back when Stephen Clark was a starter on this team. And no disrespect to Stephen Clark, but he did nothing that day. I mean, he had 3 turnovers and no points with 1 rebound. So slot CMB in there now. I mean, Mississippi State only got to see him for a few minutes in that first game. Who knows what kind of difference that can make? Obviously, Mississippi State has some big guys that can go in there, in the paint and do things like Toulouse Smith and Bell and all those guys and Jeffries. But at the same time, South Carolina has some guys that can go in there and grab boards. Josh Gray only played 6 minutes in that game. BJ Mack was one of his worst games of the year that game. He had 5 points on 1 of 9 shooting. Even a guy like Talon Cooper didn't play particularly well. 1 of 6 from the field, 4 points. Yep. So that's saying a lot, because South Carolina won that game by 6 points at home. So it's been a long time since that game. A lot of things have changed and all this and that. South Carolina, if they play the game of basketball that we've seen them play, I could see them winning that game, no problem. But it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough on the road. Mississippi State really playing for their tournament hopes and stuff. We'll see what happens. But I think right now, South Carolina, look, it was a tough loss yesterday. No doubt about it. You should have, I don't know. I'm not going to say you should have won that game, but you could have won that game, I think. And, it's like everything's still in perspective. You still have all these goals left. You can make a run you can get a top 4 seed this weekend. You can go out there, win a game or two, maybe even win the whole thing in Nashville next week. And then you can go into the NCAA tournament rolling, make some noise, and you can still hang some sort of banner, I'm sure. But, I wouldn't hang my head too long on this regular season title. Again, I think the big thing is it's just a regular season championship. It's not a postseason championship. Sure, it'd have been nice to hang a banner right now. Absolutely. Who's saying no to that? But again, you still have all these goals out in front of you, and the season is far from over. Still a lot of basketball left to be played.
Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. Jack, before we get out of here and get our final thoughts, we want to talk about our sponsors real quick.
Yep, let's do it. So our first sponsor is the team over at Liberty Tax. Taxiety is that uncertain feeling you get right before doing your taxes, but you don't have to go through it alone. The tax team at Liberty Tax in Irmo, Lexington, and Columbia will walk you through the process, clear up any confusion, and guarantee you'll get the biggest possible refund or your money back. It's tax time. If you're in a hurry for your refund, call on the tax team at Liberty Tax. Fast, accurate, and guaranteed. On the other hand, though, if you think you might be owing Uncle Sam, talk to the Liberty Tax team to make sure you're not paying more than you should owe. They'll find every possible deduction for you. Locally owned and operated, staffed by tax professionals from your neighborhood, open 9 to 9 weekdays and 9 to 5 Saturdays. There are multiple service options. You can start through the Liberty Tax mobile app or through desktop portal. Make an appointment or just walk in. You can give a call to upload your tax documents, and when you come in, your return will be ready to review and sign. On your screen right now, for those listening, the phone number to call is 803-462-5576. Again, that's 803-462-5576. Those are our guys over at Liberty Tax. And I got to find hold on. Sorry. Okay. And our next sponsor is Clint.Hammond, the guy above us here. In need of help with your mortgage? Call on our good friend Clint.Hammond at the Movement Mortgage Network. He's been in the mortgage industry since 2003, which allows him to help everyone from the first-time home buyer to the complicated and complex jumbo buyer. Whether you're looking to purchase a new home or refinance. Nothing is more important than a well thought out financial strategy that comes with 5-star customer service. He's even helped out our very own Wes Mitchell and former Gamecock quarterback Perry Orth with their mortgages. So give our guy Clint a call at 803-771-6933. Again, that's 803-771-6933. The guy above us here.
Yeah, Clint's the man. Give him a call. He's above us on all of our GC Live programming. Good stuff, Jack, handling the ads as I'm laptopless here on spring break, trying to make do. But yeah, so final thoughts on obviously last night and going ahead. I guess I'll offer mine first. I think last night was obviously a tough loss, but this team has responded back many a time from tough losses. I think they will do that against Mississippi State, right? They have, much everything clicking. They didn't shoot the ball great last night, but they know that they can shoot the ball better. And there's a couple things that they'll take from last night that will trickle into the rest of the season. And then big games as well. It's good to have a big game towards the end of the season because then, you're used to playing big games when it comes to conference tournament and then NCAA tournament time. So, even though you lost it, there's a lot of good that you can take from it. And move on, right? This team has shown that they can flush things in the past. They flushed a 40-point or a 30-point loss at Auburn, and then came back and rattled off a couple. So it's not out of the realm of possibility. I think this team winds up a 4 seed and is playing on Friday, I believe, right? So
Yep.
Friday at the SEC tournament, and this team controls their fate, right? It's plain and simple, just win and survive in advance, right? And if this team can continue to, focus up on the defensive end, they forced Tennessee, one of the highest scoring offenses in the country, to a rock fight last night. Whether you like that or not, this defense, tightened up and you just needed the offensive end to click a little bit more. And that was your game, right? So a lot of good things that you can take from this one. Hopefully, you can get a win to cap off the season strong and wind up in that 4 seed against Mississippi State, but still some work left to be done for sure.
Yeah. Here's some much more perspective that can get spoon fed to our listeners here that might need it after a game like last night. Looking at last night in that second half specifically, obviously South Carolina played a lot better as the game kind of wore on. Tennessee in the second half, 7 of 25 from the field. That's just 28% shooting. And then they were 2 of 9 from 3. Now, the big difference was Tennessee had 18 free throws in the second half and shot 83% on those. So, looking at South Carolina, for instance, here, South Carolina in the second half shot 45% and then 33% from 3-point range and 5 of 10 from at the free throw line. So I say all this because, look, it was a tough game last night, but there is hope, right? You were able to outplay one of the best teams in the country in that second half last night and really bear down, play better defense, shoot the ball a little better. Obviously, you got to be better at the free throw line, but I think you got to be happy with the way that second half went. I mean, the comeback came up short, but putting it into some more perspective here, you had a chance to win that game. Yeah, if you can go out there for 40 minutes and just take care of business like you're supposed to, play 2 clean halves of basketball, you're coming away with a victory 9 times out of 10, in my opinion. I think South Carolina is still a very good team, a lot out in front of them, and we'll see what happens. But again, like you said, Joe, it does start with getting a win on Saturday, tough road environment. This is kind of what this team is made of. How do you respond after suffering arguably your toughest loss of the season? How do you respond after the emotions were so high going into that game? Do you let it balloon and continue to spiral, or do you wipe your nose and just move on and show other teams that, hey, this is still a team that can be a threat come March? So we'll see what happens. But again, there's a lot of season left to go, and a lot of hope for what's to come moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I firmly agree. And I mean, Jack, you and I will both be in Nashville to cover everything that has the SEC tournament that brings us the SEC tournament. So yeah, appreciate everyone tuning in.
Yeah. We'll have foul balls later on today. So yeah, be sure to tune in for that. But Joe, it was a good show, man. So happy to do this, and we're looking forward to Nashville next week.
Yeah, absolutely. So appreciate everyone watching this episode and dealing with me broadcasting from my phone. Appreciate everyone tuning in and have a good week.